When you're at Main Justice, you live in a vortex between criminal prosecution and the political world that exists in Washington, D.C., and that is tremendously challenging. The Justice Department oftentimes finds itself, because of our unique responsibilities to do justice and to hold people accountable and enforce our nation's laws, we find ourselves potentially at odds not only with the persons whom we may be investigating, but other political forces in Washington, whether it's within Congress, whether it's within the executive, other parts of the executive branch, including the White House. We can find ourselves in a lot of different unique positions and the subject of a great deal of consternation by others. And so when you're in that environment, you also have to deal with a lot of that, and that is important work because it's necessary work to defend and protect the department so that the men and women who do the cases and investigate the cases every day are free from those pressures and can conduct them in the professional, disinterested way in which they're supposed to do it. Basically, the number one arching goal for this office and during my tenure was to try to do more good for the people of Western Oklahoma. And that meant, first and foremost, to make us maximize our productivity. And I'm really pleased about the accomplishments of the men and women of this office during my tenure. What that's meant is we have taken more bad guys off the streets. We've convicted more bad guys. We've sent more bad guys to prison and therefore protected citizens from those bad guys. When I took over in September of '05, the one thing I knew that was certain was that we would have a new president in January of 2009. And anytime you have a change in administration, that administration has not only the right, but I would argue really the prerogative to make sure that it puts in place a team that it believes is best to carry out the goals and priorities that it sets for itself. So I knew when I took over, look, a U.S. attorney were appointed for a 4-year term. I've served basically 4 years. I knew when I took over sort of what my shelf life likely was. This past spring, when I was offered the opportunity to go and spend some time down at OU and spend some time with those students, many of whom we have had here as interns, I saw that as a great way to continue to give back to the legal community and bring some of my experiences to bear, but also to free me up in some ways so that I could explore further my options, my long-term options. As I've concluded, I began to conclude last spring that it was time to explore. I believe that I've accomplished substantially the goals that I set forth for this office. Of course, there's always more work to be done. There's always more that can be done. But I guess what I feel most grateful for is that the men and women of this office have risen to every challenge I've laid down for them. And ultimately, I believe I leave this office in tremendous good shape for the future.